When it comes to protein consumption, do you know that what really matters most and makes the difference for our health is the source of the protein and not really the amount of the protein we consume? This is one major thing we'll be discussing in this video today as we continue on our journey to the consumption of a healthy diet. So please keep watching. Nutrition experts have recommended that our daily intake of calories from protein should be around 10 to 35%. That means protein is very, very important in our daily diet. But there is this major problem. Not so many people know how exactly to consume protein in such a way that it will not lead to other health issues. Yes, there is a way to consume protein and there is a way not to consume protein. So please stick around to the end of this video so that you can understand it precepts by precepts. Let me start by saying this, that protein is very, very, very important in our daily diet because of so many things. It's actually like the building block for every cell and tissue in our body. We need it virtually in every tissue, including our ears, our skin, our bones, our muscles. In fact, blood formation has to do with protein. We need it for cellular repair, we need it to maintain our body cells, we need it for fluid balance, we need it for metabolic reactions, we need it for general cell growth, we need it for so many things. Protein also helps us to build and maintain a good muscle tone. It helps us to maintain our muscle mass, and it also helps to maintain our muscle strength. In fact, among the aged among us, a good amount of protein consumption can help in maintaining their muscle mass, muscle tone, and muscle strength. And so that will help to prevent a kind of flabbing of the skin. You get what I mean? There are two major sources of protein. We have the animal protein and we have the plant protein. But which of these proteins is actually the best to consume? And how do we consume them? Let me start by talking about the plant proteins. Plant proteins are very excellent. They are very, very, very good for consumption. Examples of these plant proteins include legumes such as beans, peas, and soya bean. Then nuts, different kind of nuts, almonds, cashew nuts, peanuts, walnuts, and then we also have whole grains such as rice, wheat, we have the millet, and we also have the oats. These are very, very excellent sources of plant proteins. And please, in all you're getting, when you are getting protein, try as much as possible to ensure that most of your protein come from the plants. Make sure that most of your protein comes from the plants. This is a very good way to start. And now let's talk about the animal protein. Animal protein is actually the one that has a lot of do's and don'ts. Now let me talk about the don'ts and then we move to the do's. One major thing that you should not do in the consumption of protein is do not consume processed meats. Do not consume processed meats. Yes, we know that meat is a source of protein and everybody says meat, but please avoid processed meats completely. What is processed meat? Processed meats are meats that have undergone a kind of transformation, maybe by salting, smoking, curing, or fermentation, or any other procedure just for the purpose of increasing its flavor or for preservation. That is processed meat. Example includes hot dogs, chicken sausages. This kind of meat should be avoided completely because they majorly usually come from red meats. They usually come from red meats, and this process have actually altered a lot of things in the protein makeup of this kind of meat. Next thing I want to talk about in the consumption of animal protein is that red meat should be consumed in moderation. Remember what we talked about in the last video when it comes to the consumption of red meat. Please, for the sake of the fact that red meat contains saturated fats, for the sake of the fact that red meat contains saturated fats, please let us try as much as possible to limit the consumption of red meat as we consume protein. This is because it contains saturated fats, and you know everything we talked about saturated fats from the last video on fat consumption. And also, when we are consuming this kind of meat, even in this moderation, if we see any visible fat, if you see any visible fat on this meat, please trim it off, cut it off. You don't need that fat. It is enough that it contains saturated fat. So now consuming the visible fat on it, it's a no-go area. So the second thing we should make sure in the consumption of animal protein is that limit the amount of red meat you consume. Examples of these red meats include beef, pork, and goat meat. The next thing I want to talk about is the consumption of protein from dairy products. This should also be in limitations. This should also be in moderation because it also contains saturated fat. You know that there should be a balance. Yes, we actually want the protein from this food, but because of the other things that come with this package, that means we have to be aware of these other things that comes with this whole package, and we should know how to make reshuffling. We should be able to make our choices correctly. For the fact that we need these proteins does not mean we should endanger our health because of the other things that come with this package. And so in the consumption of dairy foods, we should also try and let it be in moderation because they also contain saturated fats. Examples include milk and cheese. But for the excess milk and cheese, we can substitute with yogurts. Yogurt is a very good source of protein, and we can use it to substitute for the excess milk and cheese that we might be consuming just because of the fact that milk and cheese contains saturated fats. And so, rule number 3, dairy foods and products should be consumed in moderation. And now to the number 1 rule, which is actually the best kind of animal protein that we can consume as humans, is the consumption of poultry. This includes chicken, turkey, duck. They are very, very good sources of protein. Eggs are also very excellent. Eggs are also very excellent sources of protein. But when you are consuming this chicken and turkey, peel off the skin because you don't need that skin. Remember our last discussion. In fact, if you have not watched that video, just go and watch it. You will understand everything we are talking about when it comes to all these fat. Go and watch that video on how to consume fats safely. Watch the first part, watch the second part, and so you will really understand what we are talking about in this video. Now we are talking about protein, but we have a lot of referrals to fats. And that is what many people don't know. They focus on the fact that this food contains protein, but they don't know the other package that comes, the other things that come with this package of protein. And so please go and watch that video if you have not watched it. I am really recommending it. So please, in the consumption of poultry, the chicken and the turkey, peel off the skin, and of course you don't need it fried. You don't need it fried at all. Another source of excellent animal protein is the fish. Fishes are also very good sources of protein. And if you are going to consume any fish that contains fat, please refer back to that video on the kind of fatty fishes that you can consume. And remember, I said that eggs are also very excellent sources of protein. With this, we have come to the end of this video today on the pathway, the right way we should consume protein in our diet. In our next video, I am going to discuss how to consume protein to maintain weight loss. There is a pathway to the consumption of protein that helps to maintain weight loss. So for people who are actually on a diet, or people who are actually interested in shedding off some weight, there is a secret in the consumption of protein that I'm going to share with you in my next video. So please click on the subscribe button and click on the notification bell so that you don't miss out of these upcoming updates. It's going to be very, very informative, it's educative, and it's very, very inspiring.